Welcome to the SwimSwam podcast. I'm today's host, Coleman Hodges, and joining us today, we've been covering him since he was 10 years old, and he broke the national age group record in the 50 butterfly. Since then, he has won world junior titles, junior pan pac titles, world championship titles, NCAA titles, and now he is an Olympian and a two-time Olympic medalist. Today, we're sitting down with Carson Foster. Carson, thanks so much for being here. How's it going?
It's going great. Life is good right now. So back to swimming, back in Austin. So yeah, thank you for having me on. Excited to talk.
This episode of the SwimSwam podcast is sponsored by Commit Swimming, SwimSwam's exclusive team management software partner. Since 2015, Commit has been providing coaches with swimming's leading workout management software. And now, Commit has team management software too. Commit wants to help you make the switch from Team Unify to a simpler, more powerful solution. Their onboarding and customer service team will walk you through every step of the way. Check them out at commitswimming.com to book your demo today. That's COMMIT swimming.com. We were just talking off camera. I think pretty much every facet of your life has changed recently or is changing. I mean, it's a little crazy. You're still in Austin. Yeah. And I guess that's a big consistent. But I'm almost like, where do we start? Let's go most recently. You got married to your longtime partner and girlfriend, Meredith. Just tell me a little bit about the excitement of that. I mean, you're obviously coming off Olympic Games and then to go into another just super life high. How was it? What was it like?
The wedding and like the wedding weekend itself was like truly the best. The wedding day was the best day of my life. It was way more, obviously, like way more emotional, way more it went by so fast, I think is what I'm trying to say. And I think there were so many parts where I was just like, wow, like looking around the room the whole weekend, from the reception to the wedding. And then a lot of people stayed afterwards for the Reds game the next day. Just like those 3 days of like looking around and being like, we'll probably never have this many people that like we love and that love us all in the same city again, ever, and let alone the same city, same room. And then also just to kind of celebrate like my relationship and our relationship with Meredith and her family and my family. Because we've been together for 7 years. And so to have that finally get to have that celebration of like, it's official. It was truly amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like weddings are so special for that specific reason. I mean, you get to celebrate, but it's not only celebrating the relationship, it's celebrating with, everyone you have known in life, everyone who you truly care about and who your significant other also cares about. I mean, I just went to my brother's wedding last year, who I'm extremely close with. And, it was a similar thing. It was emotionally overwhelming just because you have this really tight-knit group of people who are all just exuding love and happiness and joy, and it's a cool thing. So
It is.
yeah. Just so go ahead.
Yeah, just like I didn't even feel like I talked about like the people, like having like my best friend like Jake was there, and like I don't know, it was just the whole weekend, and I'm so excited to get the video back. Like we had a videographer, and to get the video back to be able to like relive it, because like I said, it just went by so fast, and I feel like I've had memories of it where I'm like, oh, I wish I could just go back to that night and that weekend, because it was truly the best.
Yeah, I'm glad. It seems like I've had quite a few friends of mine get married over the past 5-ish years, late 20s, early 30s, that started happening for me and my social groups. And like, I'm glad that it kind of got stretched out to a weekend a lot of times, because like you said, it's just like one night. It's almost not enough or even one day is not enough because you have all those people there and you want to savor it and you want to, just bask in that celebration and in that feeling of being with your people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's nice that you got to.
Yeah, it was awesome. Truly awesome.
That's great. And then you went, I saw a couple pictures on social media. I think you went somewhere cool for your honeymoon or for your vacation.
Yeah, we went to St. Lucia, which was like that. Honestly, the wedding weekend was amazing, but it was so exhausting. And like coming off of another, well, just not even another, it's just an exhausting summer and an exhausting year. Where then we went to St. Lucia, got to totally turn off. I felt like that was really good to have just intentional time over, our wedding lead up wasn't like normal with me being gone at like, especially not with Meredith, but out of the country for essentially 45 days leading up. So like I wasn't around for a lot of the planning. And so like the last minute planning and meetings. And so I also didn't get to talk to Meredith about like normal stuff. Like a lot of, she's kind of like my rock and soundboard for like things that are going on in swimming and things that I'm stressed about or things that are going well. And so a lot of our conversations were surrounded mainly about the swimming and the lead up to the Olympics. And so I feel like by the time we got to the wedding, it was just a continuation of like, go, which was awesome. But then when we got to the honeymoon, I was like, oh, finally, like we just get to relax. We get to enjoy this time of just you and I, like just us for a week. And then by the end of it, like both of us are very much routine people. And so like I think we both could have stayed another week, but at the same time, I was very much looking forward to coming back to Austin and getting into routine of, that I haven't had since like June.
I feel like that is one of the craziest and largely unspoken parts about the Olympics is that, like you said, you're gone for 45 days. It's like a month and a half where you're just like focused on this one thing, and you get back and it's like, okay, what now? Right? And then probably on top of that, you're going on vacation or you're like taking a break. So it's like, you're in this period of maybe 2+ months for a lot of people where as someone who is exceedingly used to routine, you're completely out of that routine. So I can only imagine it feels good to sink back in at home and just get back into normalcy.
Yeah, it's still a little bit crazy because like I said off camera, like to you, we're moving now. And so moving in Austin, still staying in Austin, but moving places. And so it's just kind of been like a continuation of the craziness, but hopefully next week we'll settle down. We'll have nothing besides, obviously I'm in school and swimming and Mary's got work. So other than that, we'll be able to finally, get into routine in Austin and live our normal lives.
Well, I'm excited to hear that. It's always nice to settle back in and be like, all right, let's just get back on track. But obviously, as you said, it was a big summer. I'm going to start just before trials. We obviously knew how Olympic trials went for you, but it was Olympic trials is stressful. It's daunting. Even as a member of the media, I'm like, whew, all right, like here we go. It's a big meet. How are you feeling heading into that meet, just with how your training had gone and where your confidence was at?
It's honestly, it's super interesting looking back for me of like going over kind of reflecting on my season, because I think it was a mix of like, the last 3 seasons, I feel like I've been the best IMer in the country and the best, honestly, I in my eyes, I felt like I was the second best all around IMer in the world over the last couple of years. Obviously the 200 IM has been a little bit behind my 400 IM. And, but for the most part, I felt confident in that and that I had the capabilities of doing it. But also like everyone gets nervous for that meet, everyone has the what ifs of what if I don't make it, no matter how I've swam all season. And I feel like that was the one constant from talking to people at training camp or talking to people at trials. Like everyone has those thoughts. which makes me feel better because those are some thoughts that I felt like I had and where I was like, why am I thinking like this? Like I felt like this before 2021 and it ended up not going my way. But I think the lead up to trials this year for me was a little bit different. And I know I feel like every single training group pretty much had some sort of like thing not go to plan, whether it be the ASU group who had, Bob make that transition before trials, or like I feel like the Texas group, even though Ed and Wyatt, no matter what, always were taking care of me. Like they were so great to me. There was a lot of like floating uncertainty the last 2 years over like what is our program going to look like, what is going on, like why, like we hear a million rumors a week over who the next coach is going to be. And so I think that was kind of like dragged out a little bit, and it was like necessary. Obviously that's just how coaching transitions work, but at the same time, like it's always in the back of your mind. So I felt like there was a lot of distractions in the Olympic year, which there always is going to be. It's just that's how it was. But so I think the lead up, I was pretty hit or miss in terms of like confidence. I definitely had it in waves. I started working with a new performance coach named Jim Murphy, who's been so good with me and helping me this year. And I felt like was a large reason why I had such a good trials. But I mean, at trials, like obviously, like I said, everyone's nervous, but I think that was the best I've felt at a big high level meet ever, over just being calm and present and focusing on my race and being present within the race. And I think that showed in like my race strategy and my race execution. I swam everything exactly how I wanted to swim it. And so, yeah, trials was great to me. I have great memories from trials that I think will be helpful for me in 4 years.
Yeah. Trials, man. Wow. Sorry. I'm thinking back over it and thinking about these races, and it was it's full of cool moments and also obviously moments that kind of suck. But so your trials was good. Overall it went to plan, or you came out the other side of it an Olympian.
Of course.
And take me through those next, I think you get a week at home and then you go right off to training camp. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So I got home, I think on that. So trials ended on Sunday, and then I went home Monday night. I was finished swimming though on Friday, I think was my last day. I think it was Friday night. And so I went home to Cincinnati for a day, drove back to Indy for the team announcement, and then flew home Monday night. And then I got a week. I think I left that next Tuesday, was home for a week. That was obviously, again, very weird period of time with the coaching situation, with like the ASU group and Bob, but also me still being and Luke and Shane still being with Eddie and Wyatt. But also knowing like, okay, these are like the last 5-6 practices I get with Eddie and Wyatt. And so, but like that goes by like this, because like you want to see everyone. You're about to leave for 2 months or a month. Like you want to hang out with people. And so that week just went by so fast. It's also like just decompressing after trials. And like,
God,
I think
that is so much all in one little, sorry.
And it's interesting. This is a side note, but like, I feel like part of one of the hardest things that I felt like no one talked about this summer was the fact that we essentially had 2 Olympics in 1 month, like the US team. Like, I think no one understands. I didn't even swim that much at trials. I scratched most of my events, and that was the plan all along, was to just swim the IMs as long as they went well. But like for the people who swam, Chris Giuliano and all of his event schedule, like he's swimming a 9-day meet, and then he gets 3 weeks to kind of like revamp, and then he has to do it again. And your emotions, your fight or flight is on the entire week over like just adrenaline. And so I think and I don't know how other countries do it. I don't pay that much attention to their trials and like in terms of like logistics, but like I don't know if any other country did a 9-day trials.
I think the longest any other country had was like maybe a 6-day, a 5 or 6 day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I get it. The US has always done that, and it works, and it works for the event lineup. But I think that's part of the reason why it's hard to go from trials to the Olympics. But but then we went to North Carolina after that week, we're there for 10 days. And then Croatia, obviously, after that, and then Paris. But yeah, it was like that month and a half from trials to the end of the Olympics went by so fast, so fast.
I was thinking about it at the time, but since then I hadn't thought about it, and you've spoken on it now, but just the coaching transition of, obviously I understood why, Bob going straight to Texas in April had to happen, and how the transition, I thought everyone did the best that they could just from the outside. I don't obviously know the inner workings or anything, but hearing you talk about that, it's just so much to process. You're thinking about, oh, who's going to be the next coach, and then you finally know, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to lose my 2 long time coaches at the end of this summer, most likely, or they're it's going to look very different, and you're trying to process all of that while you're trying to get ready for the 2 biggest meets of your life.
Yeah.
Whew, that's a lot. That's but I think I'm guessing when you're in it, it's just you're doing your best, right? You're not necessarily processing everything that's happening, but you're just kind of moving along. And I think especially for swimmers, that's kind of the goal, right? Just keep it moving.
Yeah, especially especially for the pros, and like obviously the pros last year were just me, Shane, and Will. And so I think especially for us, because obviously there's huge implications on the college level, what the team's going to look like with transfers coming in and all of that. But for us, I was like, okay, that's great. I like this whole new Texas thing. It's like on one side, Eddie and Wyatt, I'm extremely close with, both of them. And so there was part of me that was like, oh, like obviously Eddie was going to be gone no matter what, but also like heartbroken that, my time with Wyatt was coming to an end, and I was super close with him. He was a large reason why I chose to go to Texas. And so, but on the other hand, like, what better coach for me to start working with than Bob, who's had all this success, and especially in events that I target. And so there was like 2 sides of the coin where I was like, oh, so excited for Bob, but also like processing of like, I'm really going to miss this Texas. Like, I'm really going to miss this vibe that we have here over, like, it's like truly like a family. They've built it for so many years. And each coach has their own kind of culture that they establish. And so I knew it was going to be unique with Bob, and different from Eddie and Wyatt's, and it would be different no matter who the coach was. But definitely towards the end of my time with Eddie and Wyatt, I was like, oh, I'm really going to miss these times like this where we're all just laughing, joking around in between sets, because that's just how Eddie and Wyatt kind of rolled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I imagine, I think that's why it's so hard for me to comprehend, every single off season NCAA or after the summer, like there's so many coaching changes, and it's crazy to me how much movement there is, because with each leaving coach, like there are athletes who loved that coach or are affected by that. And it's like, it's especially like from the SwimSwam perspective, if I'm looking at it from all the changes, it's like, oh my God, I can't begin to process this, because there's like so much in motion. But yeah, it's like a coaching change can have a big effect, and maybe not so much physically, but certainly emotionally, and maybe physically, in terms of the training. But yeah, it's interesting to think about. I think that often gets lost when people are looking at it from the outside and just thinking, oh, well, how will this person train under X coach versus like, how will they connect with them?
Yeah. And I mean, at least we're 3 weeks in, but like the connection with Bob and Eric and Trevor has been great so far for me, and I've really enjoyed that. It's fun that it's new, but it's definitely very different, and it's very obvious why Bob is such a accomplished coach. The way he runs his team and his sets, like, it's very clear that this stuff works. And so it's been great so far, but yeah, it's definitely different.
I'm excited to pick your brain a little more about what it's been like so far, but I'm going to save that to the end. So getting back on track, just so you have a week in Austin, you get to training camp in Raleigh, and then Croatia, as you mentioned. How did that go? Obviously, you've been through staging camps before. You've been on international teams before. Did this one feel similar to those for you, or did it feel much different for you, being your first time on an Olympic camp?
It was very similar in it was my first domestic camp. So like that was the part that was different for me. Like normally for Worlds, you don't do domestic camps. And so that part was different. Also coming off of a 9-day meet, like I just said, like I was definitely a little bit more fatigued than I had been in the past. And not even physically, it was just more mentally and emotionally, just like, oh, I need time to process what just happened. Like I need time to process the trials, and especially how well it went for me of like internally I was just like celebrating my success with trials. And I feel like me and my family deserve to do that because it's such a big moment for me. And I mean, my family's sacrificed just as much as I have for me to get there. So equally for them, but then to get thrown right back in and be like, okay, well, I need to do that again in 30 days. And so to like try and get refocused like that. And I think I was a little bit mentally and emotionally exhausted, but still when I got to training camp. But I swam incredible at Raleigh training camp. I was super, super good there, was on fire in all my workouts. And then, and I don't, yeah. And, there's probably something to do with taper in that over like, I don't know exactly how, I'm always learning and I'm always trying to learn, but still as a 22-year-old, like I'm still trying to figure out what that means in terms of how optimal was my taper. For trials and the Olympics, because I was definitely better in Raleigh than I was in Croatia. And then in terms of like my feel for the water was definitely better in Raleigh and Croatia than I was in Paris. And who knows, maybe that could have been, there's so many variables in Paris, which I'm sure we're going to get to in the podcast. But yeah, it was definitely in Raleigh was my best phase of camp. And then Croatia was still good. But definitely the closer weeks following trials, I was swimming my best.
Mm-hmm. Who were you training with / under in Raleigh and Croatia?
Raleigh was a mix because Eddie actually came for a few days. And so Eddie was there for a few days. So I was with him. But the plan, the whole trip was to be under Carol. I was with Carol. Me, Luke, and Shane were all with Carol. And she obviously is a great communicator, both with us and with Eddie. She understands Eddie just as much as we do, probably more because she's been working with him for so long. So she was very good at communicating what he wanted and putting it into like kind of, we have so much, with Eddie, we had so much freedom with what we wanted to do on taper. And so she was really good at communicating and helping us figure out, okay, what does he want us to do here? And so she was our main coach through those camps.
Nice. I forgot I forgot that there was a Texas coach there in the form of Carol, and I mean it makes sense to have that familiarity there. Was it mostly just the three of you? Did you guys get to do some sets with others as well?
Very little. I mean, we have the infamous Texas taper, or the Eddie Texas taper. Over like, we always get made fun of on those trips because we do way less than everyone else on taper. At least that's just how Eddie was. It's how Eddie chose to do his tapers, was we work really hard during the year, and then when we get to taper time, we're not doing much. And it has its positives and its drawbacks, obviously. But it's fun while we're there because we're like, all right, 2,500 and I'll see you later. I'll head back. I'll get on the first bus back to the hotel. But
see you guys at the brunch buffet.
Actually. And so, yeah, the Florida guys always gave us crap for it. They were always the one chirping at us. But yeah, it was mainly just me, Luke, and Shane. But
Gotcha.
Also with how much say we get in terms of what we do, like we were all really doing different things most days as well. Like I would choose, I need something different than Luke does, and I need something different than Shane does. They need different things. And so we're all kind of like, for the same structure of workout, but different kind of main sets, main focuses.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll never forget. I think it was one of the first interviews I ever did with Eddie, and we were talking about taper. He was like, I've always wanted to try just not having someone swim for a week before their big meet, but I've never had the guts to do it, but I think it would work.
He still says that. He said that last sorry, I don't know if you could hear that. He said that last year over, like, he thinks that it would work if he just didn't have anyone swim, but he was like, I'm too scared to try it.
Yeah. maybe in his older, well, I mean, he's been in his older years for a while, I feel, but maybe now that he's not like the head coach, maybe he'll try it with someone finally.
I don't know.
It's
it's not going to be me. I'm not trying it.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, high risk, high reward type of situation, or maybe just high risk, normal reward. But I would love to see it. It's like he really is a mad scientist, and that will always stick with me. And just, I'll see you in a week. Don't even bother coming into the pool. So maybe we'll get it one of these days. But so as you previously mentioned, you get to Paris, and then obviously we heard a lot about the circumstances and conditions there. I've talked to a lot of athletes about it there. A, I feel like this is going to happen at any Olympics, and B, it's going to happen anytime you bring massive crowds of people into a very small space. And a lot of it, I also feel like, can be explained, like the buses taking longer than normal. There's just traffic like that. Yeah. That's no one's fault, but how, obviously you're going to the Olympics, you want the conditions to be as ideal as possible. So you get to the village, and how do you feel like you were able to adjust those first few days? I think your first swim was day 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the first few days were amazing. It felt like college. I mean, my roommates were, my roommate was Luca all through training camp, and he's a great roommate. Him and I have roomed a couple times through junior trips and 2 years ago at Worlds. And so I have a lot of fun with him. And then we had Shane and Charlie Swanson, both of which I trained with at Texas, and then Luke and Drew, 2 of my best friends. And so, like, our suite, I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is like going to be the best weeks ever. And so we adjusted really well. Obviously, there, like, as everyone's heard, like, there was long bus rides, and the buses were really hot because we weren't allowed, for like safety reasons, we weren't allowed to roll down the windows or like open up the windows to let air in, and there was no air conditioning on the bus. So like, and it was like a heat wave in Paris that week. So like, it was like scorching hot on those buses. And so, and the bus rides for the beginning of the week were all pretty much an hour, and then they got quicker as the meet went on, the weeks went on, and they found new routes. But yeah, like, that was obviously a very frustrating thing because you want to be optimal. Like, you want everything to be perfect because you want to have the perfect swim. But I remember at training camp, it was the last meeting we had before we left for Paris, and Ryan Murphy stood up and was like, there's stuff that's going to happen that's going to make it not ideal. Like, something's going to happen that's not expected, and we're all like, we're going to have to adjust, and the people who adjust the best are the ones who are going to swim the best. And I had a day where I was just like, I got stuck on a bus. I had to do a double. Like, I was at the village for like, I felt like an hour and a half, and then I had to go back to the pool. Like, I was just on the bus for like 4 hours that day. One of the days leading up to the meet, and I was so angry about it. And so, like, I was trying to get booked into a hotel. Like, I was trying to get out of there. I was like, I'm done with this. And it just wasn't working. It was the day of the opening ceremonies, and so all the roads were closed. So there's no way for me to get there. And I was so annoyed, so angry. And I remember Drew, like, obviously he was one of my suite mates, but he's also, I mean, he was in my wedding. He's one of my best friends. And he kind of calmed me down. He was like, dude, I think whether you end up getting to this hotel or whether you stay here, you're going to swim the same. Like, it's probably not going to impact your performance too much at this point. Like, you've done the work, the only thing that can impact your performance is how you view each one, like what you're thinking mentally about each one. And I was like, okay, he's right. Like, I'm not going to waste this opportunity that I've, who knows if I'll ever get again. Obviously the hope is that I'm there in LA in 4 years, but that's, nothing's guaranteed in swimming. And so, like, who knows if this was my only shot at the Olympics, why would I waste it being frustrated over a bus ride? And so I was super thankful for him that night. Also, just that was one of the great things about having him around so close the entire week, is that Drew's always helping me with that type of stuff. But, after that, I was like, you know what? I'm sticking with this. This is like college. I'm going to enjoy coming back. We had an Xbox in our room. We had the new college football game. So we were having fun while we were there. It was more just like the logistics and bus rides and everything else. The food was fine to me. It wasn't like amazing, but also the best they can do for housing thousands of athletes. And the buses were the only part where I was like, I wish this was a little bit better, but beds were fine. Air conditioning was fine for me. I felt like I had a pretty good Olympic experience in the village.
That's always good to hear. And I feel like for the most part, that is what I've heard from athletes, especially after the fact. It's like, it's not perfect, but like it's manageable. I feel like the media, me and everyone else, can kind of blow it up as it's happening. And I think that's kind of the nature of the Olympics too, right? It's like everyone is so laser focused on this one event that anything that happens, good or bad, is just going to kind of get magnified. And so I just feel like that's kind of the nature of the beast, and you move through it. Again, as an athlete, you just keep it moving.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you get to day one. 400 IM is obviously your first event. Coming off of trials where you were feeling great, coming off of camp where you were feeling good. Tell me about just getting the first swim out of the way and prelims and how you approached that morning swim.
Prelims of the 4am was the most nervous I was the entire week. One, obviously it's very typical and normal to have nerves before the first event because no one knows. I think even Leon said that at the beginning in his press conference. Like, you just never know what type of form you're in until you actually get to race. And so there's always those nerves, and there's also, all I wanted was the opportunity to race for a medal. Like, as long as I had that opportunity, I felt like I was prepared to, one, go out there and swim well, and two, be content with whatever happened in finals. I had this opportunity. I'm swimming at the largest stage in swimming, my best event. Like, all I want is the opportunity, and I'm going to do my best with that opportunity. And so prelims was my opportunity to get to finals. And so I think, obviously, like, I didn't need to like drop the hammer in prelims and go all out. But obviously you want it to feel good. I don't want to burn a match when I don't have to. And so I felt like it went really well. I've been doing a lot of visualizing this year over not swimming in lane 4 or 5, because that's something in the past that, I didn't do well with, was swimming in a lane that wasn't in the middle, because it felt like I was like on the outside looking in at finals. And so I did a ton of visualizing on that this year. Was in lane 6 for the finals. So I felt very comfortable and like, you know what, I don't need to be in the middle of the pool. I'm going to let them duke it out with the wake. And I'll be on the closer to the outside. And so I felt comfortable there. But prelims is definitely the most nervous I was all week.
And like you said, it's first swim. It's always good to just kind of get that one out of the way. I also feel like with the 400 IM, it can be such an odd event. Like obviously in Tokyo, it was super weird. I think the prelims was almost faster than the finals. And then especially for a prelims of an event like that, there's a lot more variance, I think, that can happen about race strategy and what people are kind of thinking and gaming versus maybe 100, where it's like people are just going to kind of swim their race and what happens.
100%. Yeah, I think the reason, and now that you say that, and I remember back to like kind of my mindset, and like I journaled about this, I think the day of or the night after, or the night before. But the reason why I was so nervous is because it was the first time there were only like 16 people in the event, but I'm pretty sure 1 through 16 were all 4:13 or 4:12 or faster. which I was
Yeah.
like 412 was would have been top seed at our trials. Like I went 411 and was top seed by 2 seconds at trials. And so I was like, I can't, like I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that and be comfortably in the final. And so I was like, yeah, like you said, there's so much variance. Like, is it going to be like Tokyo where it almost took a 409 to make the finals out of prelims, or is it going to be like a US trials where everyone's seated super fast and then everyone kind of adds like 5 or 6 seconds and totally fine. So I don't know. It's just like that nerves of like the unpredictable, but I think that's again why I put in so much work. I feel like to be able to go into a prelim race and be like, I'm gonna do my race strategy. I'll look around when I need to on the freestyle to see if I need to manage or if I need to pick it up. But other than that, I'm just gonna go off feel, and so that's what I did for prelims.
It seems like that's like a safe bet. You can't let the field dictate too much about, especially the beginning of your race, right? But it did end up being quite quick. I'm looking at it now. It's like 16th was 418, but then 15th was 415, right? So it's like it's a deep field. It took 411.5 to make it to make top 8. You were 411.0 and fourth seed. Ninth place was 412.2. So yeah, a lot of depth there.
Yep.
Yeah. And so then just heading into finals, you got you met your goal. You get to compete for a medal in that event. And you're in lane 6. How do you approach that race? Is it like you normally would, or did that final have a different feel than any other race you'd been in that event?
No, it was pretty typical for me in terms of like a international final. I felt like one of the cool things about, I feel like, getting to the point where I have international experience or from just competing throughout the quad at the senior international level, is that it's most of the time it's the same people. Like I feel like I'm racing the same guys every single year in the 4 a.m. And maybe that'll change with, I don't know, in terms of who's retiring and who's going to continue swimming outside of the US. But like it seems like it's going to largely stay the same for a couple more years. Everyone's pretty young. But no, I got to the ready room, same guys. Everyone acts the same. Like everyone has their own like routines and tendencies in the ready room. So I felt very normal. Obviously, like I know I have the capabilities of medaling, and so like there was that little bit of like, okay, I know I'm capable of this, but I also like, who knows what's gonna happen? Like I'm gonna swim my race. I can't control if the guy next to me goes 406 or 404 and drops a ton of time. Like that's out of my control. But I know that I can be one of the top 3 in the world, and so. The race didn't unfold the way I thought it would. Obviously, like I didn't have the speed the entire week that I had hoped. That was the one thing that was really lacking for me. It was like easy speed, which is normally something I really rely on. And so I didn't have that. So I had to take it out slower than I typically like, especially on the backstroke. But the 4 a.m. was such a cool race for me because I had almost given up pretty much mentally with a 75 left, because I was like, I'm obviously not in the position that I'm used to with being ahead, going into freestyle, having that cushion behind Leon and in front of the next place. I was getting passed by Litchfield next to me, and so I was like, well, I'm out of medals, and I like, this stinks. And then I had a call with my brother in between sessions, and he was like, if there's ever a time to push past your pain tolerance, it's the Olympics, because you don't get another shot for 4 years. And at the time when he said that, I was like, why would he say that to me? Like in between sessions, like why would he say that? Like while I'm getting ready for a final. But then I thought about that on the last 50, and I was like, I'm going to absolutely leave everything out there on this race. And found another gear, passed him, was really close to second, but once I saw third, and I was like, based on how I felt and my goal going into the meet, I was like, I get to go stand on that Olympic podium. Wasn't my best race, but I don't care. Like I get to go stand on that podium and see the flag raised up, and that'll do for this year, because obviously everyone wants to go best time at the biggest stage, but at the same time, like you will never ever hear me complaining about getting a medal at the Olympics. I don't care what color it is.
I mean, yeah, and it was a very exciting race because for that reason, right? It's like we were like, what's going on? This isn't how Carson normally swims this race. You know, just us as Americans, we were rooting for you, and to see you, run down Max Litchfield and touch him out for that third medal. I mean, I think the Japanese swimmer Tomoyuki Matsushita, it kind of came out of nowhere. We didn't see him coming, and that was like, I don't even know who he is now, aside from the silver medalist in the 400 IM. But to see you have that race, it was very cool to watch. And
Thanks.
How did that feel, getting to stand on the podium and being like, all right, I'm an Olympian, I'm an Olympic medalist?
It's super emotional. Again, like, it felt like very similar to trials. I got out there, I had some of my best friends on the team, Drew and Shane and Charlie were all in the stands watching when I got to do it. They saw me when I walked out to the podium, and that was really cool seeing them. And then also my now wife Meredith, and then my parents and my sister were all there that night and got to see me do it. And then literally as I stepped on it, I walked out and I looked up just to like take everything in. Like, the first person, was so weird. The first person I saw was my club coach, Ken, and he was way up there, like way up in the rafters. And I just saw him going like that, and like that was like, oh, I get so emotional with Ken, just because like he has literally been there with me, like, even though he's not my coach like actively day to day in college, like he's been my coach since I was 13, and he's like essentially like a third coach for me at all times since I've been in college. He's been just the best soundboard for me, and someone who, when I'm struggling or when I have a question over like, okay, what do you think about this? What should I do here? He's like been the first person to like give me advice, because he knows me personally. He knows my tendencies. He knows my personality. And so Ken has just been the greatest. But that's a side note. But like, to see him there that night with his wife, it was just so many emotions. You just want, I think it's because you just want to share it with all of them. Like, you just want to go up, and I wish I could have, 8 medals and put them all on those people, because like, those are the people. There could be 0 other people in the crowd. It wouldn't even have to be televised, but like those people being there was like, that's what I loved about the medal ceremonies at the Olympics.
Whew. I mean, going back to what makes a wedding so special, I mean, it sounds like you got to celebrate in a similar way in this regard. That's so cool that not only your family got to be there, your significant other got to be there, but it's like someone else who, again, has known you since you were a kid and has helped you along and helped build the foundation of what got you to that point. To not only watch it, but to be there in person and to get to celebrate with you in that way. I mean, that's special. Yeah.
It was very special.
Wow. That's so great. Did you sleep that night?
See, that's okay. That's one of the things that the goal going into the Olympics was to, and this was work something with my performance coach. The goal going to this Olympics was to do my best to prepare me for future international meets, and especially the next Olympics. Because it's the first time you do anything is always going to be a lot of just gaining experience. The second time is where you can actually fully grasp it and, execute the way you want to more easily. And so the goal was to kind of like learn and, take note of the things I wasn't doing well. Sleep was something I did horrible at the Olympics. And like reflecting on that is kind of frustrating, because that's something that I was so good at during the year, was taking care of my sleep. And, but like just the adrenaline of it, the logistics of finals not ending till 10:30, and like kind of resetting your schedule, having roommates and suite mates, which is not their fault. Everyone's on their own schedule. So, it's a non-controllable, but also for me, it's like no, don't go on your phone when you get to the room. Like, just put it away, turn it off. Don't get sucked into responding to text messages, even though you want to text everyone back because how much they support you. But like, especially like for me, who had more races that week, especially I only had one off day in between races each time. Like, I have to maximize my sleep that night. And so that was something I didn't do great. Definitely something that, was a giant focus point for me at all meets that I'm going to work on is sleep and recovery in that way. Because I do everything else great. I ice tub, I Normatec, I do everything I can to make sure my body's right. But sleep is the most important thing. So that's definitely something I learned at the Olympics.
I'm just amazed at how anyone swims fast at the Olympics because of what you just said, right? It's like there's so much else going on that it's like how does anyone go a best time or go a time that wins a medal? And like, I mean, the reality is most of the athletes don't, but it's again, it just amazes me that it's like you have so many distractions and like your goal is to fend off as many of them as possible. Yeah, I don't understand. And then like obviously a lot of athletes are like taking caffeine or using other things to like get them to peak performance. And as you said earlier, you're in fight or flight mode the whole time. The adrenaline is high. And then it's like, okay, I have to like then all of a sudden bring it way down so I can sleep 8 hours.
That was a thing that was for me most impressive about Leon's Olympics was like the times obviously were amazing, but like I was like so shocked at the way he was able to bounce back every single session and just be like, it was like as if he had no race before. And probably the reason why that was so impressive to me is because I really struggled with that. I felt like, and I was swimming half the amount that he was. And I think maybe I've based on some of the stuff I've done with Bob already in practice, like it's very much clear, like that's a lot of that comes from training of like the way Bob runs his week and his workouts and the structure. Like it's obvious why Regan can swim as much as she does and why Leon can, but like the fact that he was turned in, like he was already, famous in France, but like he went from like famous to like worldwide famous at the Olympics. Right. And like the fact that he was still sleeping and showing up to the pool, locked in for prelims, doing all that, that was probably the most impressive thing to me over like his Olympics was that he was able to do that.
Absolutely. To have 17 or 18,000 people just going insane for you every time you're swimming as well. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like that energy alone would keep me buzzing for days. I was talking to Sarah Sjöström's coach, and he, brought up the specific point of Leon's double, the night of the 2 fly, 2 back, so 2 breast final. He's like, it was amazing to me how he touched the wall in the 2 fly. He like celebrated for 10 seconds, and then it was like back to business. Mm-hmm. As someone who swims the 200 butterfly, I didn't think he was going to do that double. I was like betting money that it's like, no way. He's going to pick one or the other. I don't think it's worth the risk. As a swimming fan, what did you think of that performance?
I think that, well, obviously there's, I don't know the exact stat, but I remember there was some stat like no one's ever won 2 individual golds in one night.
Right.
And definitely no one's ever done it with 200 meters in both races. Yeah. So obviously that's incredible. The order in which he did it, I thought was way harder than if it was reversed because the breaststroke was second, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it would have been much easier, and maybe it wouldn't for him because maybe just for me because I'm not as good at breaststroke, but like it would have been way harder for me to go from breast to fly, or no, to go from fly to breast and do breast second. I could tell going into that third turn and fly though that he was going to win it, just with the way Milak started to like pick up a little bit going into the 150, and Leon is just such a racer that like I was like I feel like plus he's got all the momentum, he's got the whole crowd behind him, he's gonna win. And then the breaststroke, like I was interested to see how he responds back, but with how easy he did the semifinal the night before, I was like, it's probably going to be fine. But I wasn't surprised that he did it. I mean, I would have been shocked if he didn't do it or if he didn't try it, especially after he won the 4 a.m. And secretly, I was hoping he did it because I was like, you know what, maybe if he swims the double, he won't be as good in the 200 IM. Obviously, he was almost broke the world record in the 2 IM. So like for me, I was like, yeah, I hope he does it. I was like, I maybe. So, but no, I mean, his Olympic performance was incredible to watch. I wish he wouldn't have done it in my event, so I would have been able to like experience it a little bit more, like the crowd. But like on the other side of that, like having him into both of my events and like feeling the block shake before the race was super cool.
The blocks were shaking.
It was crazy. Yeah, and it was shaking to like the cadence of the chant. Like I don't remember what the chant was, but like it had like a certain like a cadence. So like it was like a normal chant, like a soccer stadium.
Right.
And like the block would vibrate with the crowd. It was crazy.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, yeah, especially obviously, you know, I did not experience Tokyo, but talking to different athletes who did, like the not having a crowd was very unique, especially for an Olympics and for other athletes who had been to prior Olympics. But it seemed like having the crowd this time and having such a massive crowd made such a big difference. I mean, and especially to have a superstar in the home country who the crowd is really getting behind, it seems like that would add a lot of energy to the events.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I mean, that was something that like having the thing that like I talked about earlier with trials and how exhausting it is. Like it is super cool to have because I felt like we had our thing, you know, a couple weeks prior where it felt like everyone was cheering for me in my events, which who knows if they were, but it felt like it because everyone was the USA fan. And so I mean, it was super cool. Obviously, I was probably like a once in a lifetime. Like I don't know if I'll ever have a experience like that. Obviously, in terms of performance, like who knows, sky's the limit right now for Leon. He just keeps getting better. But like in terms of like environment, that's probably a once in a lifetime type of feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and then it just makes you think about what LA is going to be like in 4 years with, you know, over 20,000 fans in SoFi. And it's annoying to me that, I mean, and I am someone who keeps talking about it because it's kind of my job, but it's annoying to me that we're already talking about it because it's like, guys, this just happened. And I understand narratively that's how it goes, but you know, we'll get to LA in due time.
Yes.
So you get your medal, you get a bronze medal in the 400 IM individually, but as you said, you're trying to recover. You still have races throughout the rest of the week. How do you feel like you managed the rest of your week? You're swimming on the 800 free relay, and obviously that was a task in its own with a lot of competition in that field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the 800 free relay was like definitely the most disappointing swim I had all week, and I think probably because it was just a relay. And like you always want to be your best on those relays, especially because like I didn't swim it at trials. I swam one at training camp, just to make sure the coaches knew that I could do it. But I wanted to be really good. I wanted to get a gold in that. Like I wanted to be a part of the reason why we got a gold in that. Obviously the British guys are have a super amazing chemistry swimming together. They've done it, you know, years with the same squad, but also they're just super deep in the 2 free. But the 800 free relay is definitely the event that I think that was largely, like I said, easy speed just wasn't there. And then I also got caught in a race with Tom Dean, who probably didn't have a swim that he was super happy with. And so then moving on to the 200 IM, I started feeling better as the week went on. Semifinals, I thought my best swim I had all week. But in terms of like recovery in between, like after the 4 a.m., you know, with how exhausted I was waking up the day of the 8 free relay, I was like, I need to lock in on this recovery. Like I I can't have 4 more swims if I'm recovering like this. And so I think I got better in terms of my recovery as the week went on. Once I realized like, oh, like I got more swims to do. But the 200 IMs, I felt like the way I progressed through the rounds and just had a really bad start. The final, the 2 IM, otherwise it would have been a great swim, probably best time.
Do you mean the actual start specifically, or just the start of the race?
I don't actually know. Like, I was so present in terms of like focused on, okay, what are my mental cues for butterfly, and being focused for those, that like maybe I just missed the start, or just like watching the video, I was like, how did I get that far behind? Like, what did I do on the start that made me so far behind? And the crazy thing is, I think at 15 meters, I was like, that was a great start. Like, and then I watched the video, and then like I was like, what happened? But I don't know. My reaction time was good. I think it might have just been the way I entered the water. I wasn't probably tight enough on my streamline, or probably wasn't efficient in the way that I got into my streamline or did my dolphin kick. So it was something. The start is something I definitely need to work on and change, just get better at somehow, because it's something that always is kind of like a drawback for me in the past.
So in terms of how you finished the race, you were 156.10. Wang for fourth. Wang Shun was 156.00, got third. It's such an interesting contrast because you get third in the 400 IM, you get a medal, you get it on the podium. I mean, I don't know who decided top 3 get medals at Olympics, but like, it's like, it's such a small difference, third and fourth, especially in this race. It's like by 1/10 of a second. But suddenly there's such a different connotation with how you finish, even though it's only one spot lower. How do you feel like you processed that result in the 200 IM versus the result in the 400 IM, because of what it means in terms of medals, not just the number you finish?
I processed it personally. I was totally fine. Like, I went into that race, and the way I've kind of learned to go into all my races is like, I know how I want to execute. I know what I'm capable of. Now, or something I work on with my performance coaches, there's 3 best. There's the best I have that day, the best I've ever been, and the best in the world. And so obviously the only one you can control is, am I going to be the best that day? And I felt like that was the thing, because the other 2 are like, they're rare, especially in swimming. Like, am I going to be the best I ever have? I could, but it's going to be hard. Like, that means I have to do everything perfect and be faster than I've ever been. Am I going to be best in the world? Only one person gets that title. So those 2 are extremely hard, both pretty much out of your control. The first one is in my control. And I felt like I was the best I could possibly be that day. And I got out of the water being like, I gave it my all with what I had. There's obviously, for me, the biggest thing was like coming back to the Team USA area, and like, oh, I wanted to win a medal for Team USA and get that momentum started for the night, because I think I was the second event that night. Maybe I think I was towards the beginning, but I just wanted to get the momentum going, and to come back and not have a medal, and not have to go to the victory ceremony. I was like, oh, that's the part that stung. But for me, it was like, I gave my best. What an experience this summer's been. And then also, like, now I get to go get married. So I wasn't like, I didn't get on the bus and I was like, oh, like, this me isn't good anymore. I got on the bus and I was like, I would have loved to bring back a medal, but at the same time, like, I wouldn't trade the position I'm in. Like, I'll take whatever this summer gives me, because of how amazing it's been. If I would have looked back on this, if I would have predicted this summer in terms of everything, I was telling Meredith this the other day, like in terms of the wedding, the honeymoon, the trials, the Olympics, if I would have envisioned like the perfect scenario, I think this summer would have beaten it in terms of how everything came together and how enjoyable it was. So I got on that bus and I was like, I'm going to cheer my butt off these next 2 days. But I'm happy with my Olympic experience.
Upon reflection, or just, talking about it now, you proud of that reaction? I mean, do you feel like you would have had that reaction a year ago or 2 years ago?
Definitely not. No, definitely not. I'm very proud of that reaction. I think, um, I'm not someone who does well with like, I don't, at least for me, I know some people it works well, but like for my personality, what I know works with me best, like I'm not someone who's like, I need to really get mad at myself and get mad at my competitors in order to beat them. For me, it's like swimming, no one's getting in my lane in swimming. I'm the only one who can impact my swimming. And so the only thing I can do is do my absolute best. And I felt like I did that. And I think in the past, my best wasn't good enough for myself. Um, you know, I was stuck in like the comparison, and obviously I still battle comparison. I want to be in Leon's shoes sometimes of like I want to win 4 gold medals. That sounds awesome, but I also know that it's not my time for that yet. And I don't know
Yeah.
if that's going to happen to me, but I'm secure in my swimming to know that, I work my butt off. I do everything possible to know that like I'm preparing as well as I can for this. And also I have a great life outside of swimming. And so um, I got on that bus and I was like, you know what? Like obviously everyone wants a medal. I want to make that very clear. I wanted a medal that night. Probably more than I'm letting on right now, but at the same time, like, yeah, I think it's mainly just I am so thankful for the life I have outside of swimming that makes it so like, how great is it that I'm bringing home 2 medals? I would have loved to have 3, but at least I have 2. That's something that I would have dreamed of only having 1. So, yeah.
I think it's also easier to accept what's already happened, right? I mean, in
Mhm.
that moment, especially, I'm assuming before the race, there was probably a lot more desire to have that medal than there is now that you're calmly talking about it, knowing that you don't have a medal. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's very normal, and I think that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the 800 free relay just for a moment because I spoke with Hunter Armstrong last week, and it was a great conversation. He spoke a lot about what he had been through this year, including in Doha, where we saw him swim a 200 free, and he did amazing. And he said you were a big proponent of his confidence in that, and just supporting him and lobbying for him to be on that relay. And he mentioned that in Paris, I mean, obviously his freestyle was on, and he had said, I know I've got a 144 in me. And hindsight's obviously 2020. I'm not saying the coaches should have put him on uh, or made a different decision. I think they went with a great lineup in that. I also think that it was going to be tough to win gold in that regardless, not saying it wouldn't happen, but
Mhm.
just in terms of Hunter's progress and you seeing him evolve on the national team, could you speak to that, and especially seeing his performance in Doha in the 200 free? Did you think he had something like that in him? Because I'd never seen him swim a long course 200 free.
Yeah, well, I mean, first, yeah, to start with Hunter, I mean, Hunter's been someone who, yeah, I mean, Hunter grew up in Ohio. So like, I remember Hunter, at the age group level and him being this long, lanky dude who like was pretty good at sprinting, but like, and would come up to, us sometimes and talk to us. But at the same time, like, I didn't really know who he was. Um, and then obviously he makes the Olympics and he gets all these experiences. And I wasn't there at the Olympics his first trip, but then also seeing him evolve into like being more confident on the world stage, lobbying for himself, being like, I want to be on this relay, and then going back and doing the training so that he can be on that relay. Um, and so that's just been cool. It's been cool to see Hunter's confidence on the national level grow and be more outspoken about, what he feels he's capable of. And obviously, I think that's a big part of his success is that he's so confident in himself. I mean, he believes in himself. And so, in terms of Doha, like that relay was like a jumbled mess, to be honest. Like I was like, I don't know what is going to happen on this relay. We're in lane one. We're in lane one. Luke's going to hold down the lead off. I wasn't swimming great. And so I was like, I could give us a 145. But I mean, that ended up being a great swim for me. We had Hunter going third, who I looked up his best time before the race, and it was like a 153, and I was like, and so I was like, all right. And then we had Big Dave going last, Dave Johnson. So I was like, we'll be lucky to even like be close to the podium. Like, I was like, I'm gonna use this as a practice rep for Paris, and I'm gonna try and put a time up that like, puts me on the team, because I kind of know I'm not gonna swim the 2 free at trials. So that was my mindset. I was like, did not think we were gonna medal. I was just more so in it for myself and trying to get a good split. Which sounds selfish, but also with the lineup we had, I was like, I'm not sure a medal is realistic.
I feel like that was kind of the point of that whole meet, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not really like Team USA, sure, but you're there to get race reps.
Definitely. And so the fact that, I mean, we had a big lead after me, and then Hunter going to 145 was huge. And then Dave going to 147 was huge. And so, and then we got a medal. That was so much fun. That was definitely the best part of that meet for me, most fun. But in terms of Hunter for the relay in Paris, I mean, obviously hindsight, maybe you try it, because we were comfortably in second by the end of the race, and obviously a bit behind GB, but I think, I mean, he didn't swim it from February on, and so like that was the thing for me, is I did one at training camp, and I think that's why they were, because I had been like, they made it clear, like, if I don't do it at trials, like I have to do something, and which is fair. Like I knew I had to do something which invokes confidence that I can still be on that relay, because February to July is a long time. So I think that probably is what did it, is that, Drew had been there. Obviously Luke and Kieran were the 2 that were going to go auto final. And then I swam well at training camp in my 2 free, and then Drew, just got that experience and that leadership and that racing ability. So, I'm never one. I try my best not to question any coaching decisions, because I know they're better at this than I am. So I just try and show up when they tell me to race. But I think if Hunter was on it, he could have gone something fast. Do I think it would have been top 4? I have no idea, but I think we would have gotten second regardless.
I feel like in hindsight, the only way to justify that in my mind is to put him on prelims, and then you might have a situation where you're subbing out 4 guys.
We wouldn't have been able to do that, because we had 7 guys total, if you count me. So unless I wasn't going to be on it at all, because Chris Giuliano got second at trials, he deserved to get a medal, and so he wanted, like, they put him on the prelim relay to make him part of that relay. And then if you stick, so we had 4 guys who had qualified at trials in that event. So I don't know how it works, but I know that we couldn't have had, unless we wanted to do a full swap, which I don't know how that would have worked, but I know there was something where like they couldn't put him on the prelim relay because there was too many people, it was too crowded.
So yeah, like looking at that now, it would have been. So yeah, then the only other situation is slotting him in for finals and taking Drew. Like, again, looking at hindsight, looking at what everyone split, like, yeah, it's like you can't really justify not putting anyone on that finals relay who was already on it. It was interesting. So anyway, that's mostly. It was also funny because he mentioned growing up with you in Ohio. And he was like, one time Carson came up to me at like the state meet and he was like, "What's up, Hunter?" And I'm like, "Carson Foster knows my name." He was like fanboying over you, which I thought was awesome. But I totally forgot that connection that you guys both grew up in Ohio swimming, because I don't think he swam year round, right? Until like his senior year of high school or something.
Yeah, it was something like that. And I remember he texted me when we were, I think it was in 2019. We were getting ready for, it was like, there was a junior world somewhere. And he had asked, he was like, "Hey, how do I qualify for this?" And so I was trying to explain it over text. And like, then throughout the meet, he was like, "Hey, I'm in this final. Am I still able to qualify?" Like he was so interested in trying to make this team, but he had no idea the qualifications. And so I remember that was like my first memory of Hunter's, like trying to explain to him how to make junior team stuff through text, because he's from Northern Ohio. I'm from Southern Ohio, so
Gotcha.
so I rarely interacted with him in person, but I knew him via texting about the junior team.
That's really funny. How do I do this? How do I make the team? Wow. And so, as you mentioned before, you're walking away from Paris with 2 medals and feeling really good about the summer experience you had. You get to go off and get married, have a nice break, have a honeymoon, and now you're back. You're back in the swing of things. You're week 3 of training with the Bowman crew. Let's talk about that a little. How do you feel like that's going? And there's a lot of new personnel, coaches and athletes in Austin. Is that right?
Yes, definitely. It feels. I was talking to Kobe Carozza about this because Kobe's still here and doing a 5th year, which I'm so thankful for, because he's kind of my bridge a little bit to like the rest of the team right now. Like, it's definitely weird being like the oldest person in the training group, and like feeling like, or being the one that's been here, one of the ones who's been here the longest, because it feels like I just got here. Feels like freshman year wasn't that far ago, or wasn't that long ago, but it's been so good. Like, it's so exciting, such a relief, because like going like we talked about earlier, coaching changes are hard, and you never know, and you never know how you're going to mesh with them. You never know, okay, how am I going to react to their workouts? Am I still going to be able to do their workouts? It's different style of training. I've been with Ed and Wyatt for 4 years. I'm used to them. So how is this going to work? And so this first 3 weeks have been so much fun. Super hard. Like, Bob's workouts are no joke. They are super hard. And kind of just like learning, okay, this is how Bob does things, and this is different. And also just getting used to that. And so, I mean, I'm super excited about it. I think in terms of like the training group, I would be, I don't think, definitely when the rest of the pros get here, there's no training group that's even close to ours in the world, I don't think. Not that I can think of off the top of my head. Like, I was talking to Eddie a couple of days ago. I was texting him, and I sent him the set that we did because he would have liked it. And I was like, Rex Maurer is probably the best training partner I've ever had in my life. Like, that dude is so consistently at the top. Like, he's always good. No matter what we're doing, he's always at the top of the group. And like, I feel like that's something I've always like prided myself on, is that I'm super consistent in workout. I can be competitive in anything. And I felt like Rex is like, no matter what, he's always there. And like, he's winning like almost every other set. And so there's just guys like, and then you got Aaron Shackle, who can do some incredible things in workout. Obviously, Hubie is like one of the best kickers I've ever seen in my life. Leon's not even here yet. And then you got guys like Michael Cotter, who somehow just like, you sometimes forget about it at practice. He just appears at the end. Like, you're like, who is that guy way over there? And then because like you forget he's super good. And so, like, I mean, I'm obviously biased, but I like, Texas is definitely gonna make some noise this year at NCs. Like, the team is stacked, and the way that Bob and Eric and Trevor run the team is incredible. They run it like a championship program. Like, it's no joke. And so that's exciting for me. I care so much about the program as well. And so to see it's on the right track. They're going to be good, and they're going to be good immediately. And so that's exciting that I get to be a part of it in some capacity as a pro. And yeah, it's been super enjoyable.
You kept naming these names, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's there now. Oh yeah, he's there now. Like, I forget all of the guys who are now at Texas. I mean, it's like you look at the US map and then they all converged in Austin. Wow. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty stout training group. Like you said, a lot of the pros aren't even there yet. They're still, taking breaks or doing whatever. And it's like, Man, yeah. Come 2025, holy cow.
And beyond. I mean, the same thing with like you see, like I think even in recruiting, like Bob and Eric and Trevor are doing so good. It's just as a fan of and alumni of the like Texas swimming program, it's so, and like I don't want this to like take away from Eddie and Wyatt at all, because they know how much I love them, and I've made that very clear, and how great they were to Texas swimming. But like to have this new energy and excitement towards Texas swimming, and like feeling that with like how interested recruits are in Texas again, and like how everyone wants to be a part of this, because we are the most storied program in the NCAA, and that's something we should be proud of. And so I couldn't be more excited with what Bob and Eric and Trevor are doing with UT, and yeah, I'm a proud alumnus. And I think I've made that mistake before.
Yeah, that's a weird distinction of the English language, but yeah, no, I mean, I think if you're a Texas fan, it's very exciting. We kept, speculating like, okay, where are they going to finish in 2025 and 2026? But now, just looking at the roster for this coming year, it's like they're probably gonna be pretty high. Although there are a lot of other programs who look really stout as well. I think it'll be a really fun NCAAs this year.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can go. I gotta see about what Bob's training program looks like in March, but I'm hoping to get up to Washington in March for the last 2 days if I can go.
Yeah. What do you have any do you have anything on your horizon? I mean, do you think World Cups or short course worlds or something that you might participate in, or is 2025 worlds definitely something you're shooting for at this point?
I mean, obviously 2025 worlds. I mean, any long course meet that's as the highest level of meet, I'm gonna go for every year until I'm done swimming. But no World Cup for me. I'm a big fan of getting my work done in the fall, and short course swimming in the past hasn't been like the greatest strength of mine, and so if I'm going to World Cup to make money, I think I'm better off staying in the States and getting some work in, and so that I can be better in the summer. But I wasn't planning on going to short course worlds. I was planning on just taking the first half of this year super smooth, kind of just like pacing myself into the new quad. But just the excitement I have towards the training and like the work I feel like I've already done in 3 weeks, I'm like, I changed my mind a couple of days ago. I was like, I'm going to go to short course worlds. So I'll be going to short course worlds. I'm excited to see like, either see this new work pay off, or also just learn about, okay, this is part of like the growing with a new coach over, like, this is like a rep that we can take, and this is going to make me better for the summer. I think going to a big taper meet in December will help Eric and Bob learn more about me as a swimmer and what I need. And so I think just getting those extra reps in will be good for me. But I think it'll be good.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah.
Well, Carson, I appreciate you taking such a generous amount of time to sit down and catch up. And once again, just congrats on a great summer and hopefully a great fall as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.